Good evening and welcome to Northbeat. I'm Leanie Lambrink. Canada has a new Prime Minister. Mark Carney and his somewhat smaller cabinet have been sworn in at Rideau Hall. And as CBC's David Thurton reports, Carney is promising action from day one.
Prime Minister Mark Carney arriving at Rideau Hall, ready to usher in a new political era.
That I will truly and faithfully, and to the best of my skill and knowledge, execute the powers and trust reposed in me as Prime Minister.
Just days after becoming Liberal leader, Carney isn't wasting time filling his cabinet with mostly familiar faces. François-Philippe Champagne is Finance Minister. Key ministers in the Tariff War, Jonathan Wilkinson and David McGuinty, keep their old jobs along with Melanie Joly away at G7 meetings, while Dominic LeBlanc now focuses on the relationship with the U.S. and premiers.
We have new ministers with new ideas, ready to respond to new threats and to seize new opportunities.
Carney's team is smaller, 24 ministers instead of 37, fewer women than men. Immediately confronting the new cabinet, a trade war and U.S. annexation threats.
We will never, ever, in any way, shape, or form, be part of the United States. America is not Canada.
After the formalities, it was straight to work.
I have already met with my deputy minister at ISED, and I have instructed him to prepare a letter that will be going to our suppliers to buy Canadian.
It is a privilege to serve in cabinet. Right now, all of us need to be focused on helping our new Prime Minister, Prime Minister Carney, lead our country.
On his first day, the new PM did need help.
Sir, I want to go over.
On the way to his first cabinet meeting.
Okay.
How are you feeling? I have to get one. I'm lost. Just to be able to do that.
What are your first priorities?
First priorities, we're going to deal with the carbon tax.
The Conservative leader cast doubt on that.
This is the carbon tax law. It's in place today. Until Parliament is recalled, this carbon tax law will be the law of the land.
While carbon pricing is still the law of the land, Carney signed an order ending the collection of the consumer levy.
We will be eliminating the Canada fuel charge, the consumer fuel charge, immediately.
It's unlikely that Parliament will be recalled to change the law. Sources say Carney will be triggering an election this month, sending Canadians to the polls either in late April or May. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
This is the daily newspaper from the day Mark Carney was born in Fort Smith, Northwest Territories in 1965. A short announcement on the second page says Carney arrived in the best of health at St. Anne's and that he'd make a fine new brother for his siblings. Carney's family moved to Edmonton when he was 6 years old. Turning to territorial politics, the NWT government has approved its operating budget for the year. There's one priority that's getting significantly more money from what was first proposed. Public housing is getting a $41.6 million boost. Most members say it's something to be proud of. Natalie Pressman has more.
We've got much to work on, but certainly we've got something that we can hang our hat on.
Northwest Territories politicians negotiated a big investment that wasn't in the proposed budget, $41.6 million for housing, and a commitment to spend another $50 million for housing in the next two budgets. That's all on top of the initial $2.5 billion operating budget the Finance Minister presented in February.
This is probably the single biggest budgetary change that I'm certainly aware of ever being made, but we're proud of it. It's one that does reflect the priorities of the Assembly, and I thank my colleagues for getting us here.
Ministers and most MLAs say it was the result of collaboration and tough negotiations, but not all members thought it went far enough.
I'm glad some dial change is going to happen on the housing. I'm just personally embarrassed by thinking about, I don't think it's going to change anything.
Robert Hawkins, Kieran Testart, and Richard Ajercon all oppose the budget. They say they wanted more for housing, for police resources, and for day homes and early childhood education. Here are some other things that were added to the budget through negotiations. A commitment to make an arrears forgiveness policy for elders in public housing, and $100,000 for in-person training and meetings for staff at family violence shelters that was initially cut. The finance minister also says by May, the government will have a plan for supporting community learning when Aurora College closes its community learning centers, and that it'll have a strategy for Arctic defense and sovereignty. Natalie Pressman, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Northwest Territories MLAs have also voted in favor of reviewing the healthcare system. The motion was unanimously passed by regular MLAs.
Healthcare in the Northwest Territories to ensure.
Shauna Morgan, who represents Yellowknife North, presented the motion. The review would include looking into management practices and policies for frontline work. The motion emphasizes hearing from employees directly about their experiences.
Healthcare workers are suffering from increased workloads and staffing shortages that contribute to low morale, burnout, and reduced staff retention, which in turn leads to disruptions in continuity of patient care.
MLAs are hoping the motion is a step toward addressing those concerns. The review will be taken on by the Legislative Assembly, then it'll be studied by the Standing Committee on Social Development. The Northwest Territories government is going to ban smoking in its public housing units. Housing Minister Lucy Captana announced the ban yesterday. She says it will be phased in. All new units will be non-smoking. Anyone entering into a new or amended public housing lease agreement in the NWT will also not be allowed to smoke in their unit. The ban will apply only to government-owned housing. Captana says the NWT is the last province or territory to ban smoking in its housing units. It's been an eventful week at Yukon's Legislative Assembly. 2S LGBTQ+ policies, the White Horse Emergency Shelter, and the needs of volunteer firefighters were just a few of the things that came up during the first week of the spring sitting. CBC's Joseph Ho is covering the Yukon legislature for us, and he's here to give us a recap of how the week went. Joseph, the Yukon NDP made a big splash early in the week. What happened?
Well, it started with question period on Monday. The NDP was asking the Liberal government about its commitment to supporting the 2S LGBTQ+ community in the Catholic school system. It cited a number of cases where the Department of Education's SOGI policy was violated, so that's sexual orientation and gender identity. And the thing about Catholic schools is that they are public schools, so they do have to follow the department's policies. So the media is scrumming with Leader Kate White. She was asked if Catholic schools should get public money. She says it's an excellent question, a little bit more prodding, and she says, yeah, let's defund Catholic education because department policy just keeps getting broken. So that story got a lot of attention.
Okay, and the government recently announced the nonprofit Connective will run the White Horse Emergency Shelter for another 3 months. What did the government have to say about that?
I think that is something a lot of people were interested in. So flashback to April last year, there was a coroner's inquest looking at the deaths of 4 women at the shelter. There have been deaths at the shelter since then, and that got the First Nation of Nacho done, among others, saying that Connective should not have its contract renewed. Well, we did hear from the Minister of Health and Social Services, Tracy Ann McPhee. She expressed sadness over the deaths. But she stood by Connective. She said the organization has committed to improvement. She called them experts in their field. She said they deserve our confidence. She said the short-term extension would allow services to continue and would include additional oversight of Connective's work managing the shelter.
A fire destroyed the community center in Tegish this week. How did that put a spotlight on the needs of volunteer firefighters?
It was a chance for the Yukon Party to raise concerns with the equipment that firefighters use when responding to emergencies like these. The Association of Yukon Fire Chiefs says 80% of its volunteers are using expired protective equipment. The Yukon Party's Brad Cathers put that directly to the government in question period. The government has said a lot of new gear is on its way, but in the meantime, safety officials are checking to see if some of the expired gear is still in working condition.
And of course, making sure those volunteer firefighters are equipped to do their job, so important. Politicians will also debate the budget later this session. Remind us where things stand with that.
Yes, it's a $2.3 billion budget for both operations and capital. Big increase in spending on healthcare, $88 million from the estimates last spring. In this budget, there's more money for police, big capital projects like upgrading the Whitehorse Airport and finishing the Nesutlan Bay Bridge. That is a bridge near Teslin. The budget also includes provisions to borrow up to $400 million. The government says it's in case they run into unexpected costs like healthcare expenses or environmental disasters.
Joseph, is there anything else you're going to be keeping an eye on during this session?
There have been a few bills that have been introduced. I would flag the Act to amend the Income Tax Act. This would create the $10,000 tax credit for fertility treatments. This was a commitment in the Confidence and Supply Agreement between the governing Liberals and the NDP. One more thing I would flag for you, Leni, is keep an eye on Bill 46. This is the new Residential Tenancies Act. This legislation, also part of CASA, it would eliminate no-cause evictions. And over the last couple of years, issues like rent control and rent protections, very contentious in the Yukon.
Okay, thank you for your coverage of the Assembly, Joseph.
Thanks for having me.
Alaska politicians have put forward a resolution to recognize the unique relationship between their state and Canada. This comes as political tension escalates between both countries. The resolution notes the many long-standing ties between Alaska and Canada, and in particular, the Yukon. Those ties include Indigenous peoples, the economy, infrastructure, culture. Yukon Premier Ranj Pillay strongly supports the resolution. He was among those that testified in its favor in the Alaska State Legislature this afternoon.
We want to keep working together, just like we've done for the past 150 years. So in closing, I strongly encourage you all to support the resolution and protect Alaska and the Yukon's independent and unique relationship, and ultimately to protect our citizens, their jobs, and their way of life.
Pillay and other speakers say national political decisions do not reflect how Canadians feel about Americans and vice versa. The resolution is still in its early stages. If passed, it won't be a law or policy, but an official reflection of how Alaska lawmakers feel about the issue. The resolution still needs to go through several readings and votes before it comes into effect. Nunavut NDP MP Lori Idlout was in the high Arctic this week. She was visiting constituents in Arctic Bay, Grise Fiord, and Pond Inlet, and the CBC went with her. TJ Deer tells us about the kinds of conversations she had with local residents.
It's one of the most beautiful sights, looking out over the sea ice in Arctic Bay. But in town, some residents are struggling. Nunavut MP Lori Idlout was there on Monday to see what residents and the community itself are concerned about. Hamlet councillors told her issues like the high cost of living are a major concern. At this community meeting later that evening, some residents told Idlout directly what bothers them, telling her about their own challenges navigating federal programs. The next day, Idlout was supposed to travel to Resolute, but an unscheduled delay meant the visit had to be cancelled entirely, so it was on to the next stop. You can't tell from looking down on it, but Grise Fiord is Canada's northernmost community. It's also arguably its most isolated. There are no direct commercial flights. People have to go to and from Resolute. Once again, the high cost of living was brought up repeatedly. The prices at the co-op and occasionally spoiled food are both part of that. Mika Kikuktuk is the mayor of Grise Fiord. She says even though people harvest country food, it's not enough.
But we still need stuff from the store. Fresh produce, milk, the staple foods. It's very costly now. It's like triple the cost because they're being flown in from Resolute Bay to Grise Fiord.
The challenges here include where the community is located and how it came to be. Grise Fiord resident Jalu Kiguktuk talks about the design of the monument that's dedicated to the high Arctic relocation.
It's a mother with her son and a dog facing the ocean to represent their hopes to see the ship approaching in the direction it usually comes from. It's like they are still looking to see if the ship is coming back.
Idlout visited Pond Inlet on Wednesday, where she met with the hamlet's council and other residents. For Idlout, hearing people's concerns illustrates the lack of investment in Nunavut.
I've heard that time and time again, that because investments don't come soon enough, or because the investments are only short-term, there's no long-term sustainable funding, makes it feel like that they're a last priority.
Idlout encourages Nunavummiut to keep speaking up whenever and wherever they see injustices. TJ Deers, CBC News, Pond Inlet.
Forced and coerced sterilization of Indigenous people is still happening. The Survivors Circle for Reproductive Justice has supports available for Indigenous survivors. Join the National Registry and access up to $70,000 in healing support funds for individuals, families, and communities. The deadline to apply is March 31st. If you or someone you know has experienced forced and coerced sterilization, please call 1-877-386-0750 or visit reproductivejusticesurvivors.ca for more information.
Having 2 kids in diapers impacts every part of our lives. The Canada Child Benefit allows us to give our boys extracurricular activities. It opens their world.
Find out if you qualify at canada.ca/everydollar-counts.
In your once stolen vehicle in West Africa.
That is crazy. Jumped in the car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
When you're able to take the next step and invest in yourself and your future, that brings a ton of security.
Definitely something we never thought we'd be able to get if it wasn't for the homebuyers plan.
Find out if you qualify at canada.ca/everydollar-counts.
You are finally here.
Come on! Just talk to me.
Woo!
All you have to do is look.
Nothing can stand in your way. Are you still nervous?
No, not anymore.
GST, HST credit, I wasn't expecting a lot back, but when I did check my account randomly and I seen it there, I was like, oh wow, it's a nice little surprise. Just getting that little extra, it means a lot.
Find out if you qualify at canada.ca/everydollar-counts.
Indigenous people in the Yukon who were removed from their homes and placed in federal care can now file for compensation in a class action lawsuit. The claims process for the $23.4 billion suit opened up this week. It's part of a settlement between Ottawa and the Assembly of First Nations. Children in the Yukon and on reserve who were removed between 1991 and 2022 are eligible, as are their caregiving parents and grandparents. Virginia Ann has more.
First Nation families can now apply for being discriminated and broken apart under Canada First Nations child welfare system between 1991 and 2022.
I don't think there's any amount of money that can do justice to what it means for families to be disrupted, taken away from each other, torn apart. There's just never any amount of money that can justify what happened, but this is an acknowledgement that Canada did do wrong. And so this compensation recognizes that that federal funding program was underfunded for many years, which practically meant that on the ground families weren't receiving the supports that they needed to stay together.
Support is all you can find at the Council of Yukon First Nations office in Whitehorse. CYFN offers daily help with the claims process. Chambers says claimants will not need to relive their experiences as it was the case with other First Nations-led class actions.
This process was meant to be very low barrier. However, we know just talking about compensation and maybe reliving some of those memories and experiences can be very traumatizing. So folks can come in and get the supports they need to fill out the claim.
CYFN expect to see almost 2,000 eligible applicants in the territory. Children, parents, and grandparents are entitled to $40,000. But is that enough? One member of the Champagne-Ajiac First Nations has mixed feelings about what the amount represents.
I feel like this competition is only addressing the children being removed from their homes. But if we were asked to reveal the things that have happened while in the care of these foster homes and non-Indigenous people, and I'm not sure what amount would be able to, apply that for somebody to move on in their lives. I know it wasn't easy for myself, going from home to family. Like I said, I'm getting these memories back, and so it just kind of amazes me how much I've blocked out from when I was a child.
Dawson says it's too early to say how the money will impact her personal journey or what she'll do with it. Each claim is expected to take between 6 to 12 months to process. Virginie Anne, CBC News, Whitehorse.
A Yukon recycling organization still wants answers from the territorial government over the loss of a major contract. Raven Recenter says the territory's community service minister blocked it from processing community depot recycling. It gathered 622 signatures in a petition which was presented in the Yukon Legislative Assembly yesterday. The petition asks why Raven can no longer service community depots. A complaint was also filed with the territory's ombudsman, which is now investigating the issue. The organization's executive director says they just want the minister to come clean.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have in this, in their documents, because we would like answers, and we're certainly not getting them from Richard Mostyn.
The Yukon government says it will respond to the petition in the coming weeks. A major hand games tournament began today in Betchikon in the Northwest Territories, and first prize is close to $40,000. Travis Burke went to check it out.
We're getting ready for our big annual hand games, so there's lots of preparation, lots of work going into this. Well, it started many years ago. Our regular hand games, traditional hand games, came up into a tournament style, and ever since then it's grown. I guess you can call this the playoffs or the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Well, the game we start do the feet and fire first. Then after that we start the game, and the people come along from BC and all the way to north, and they see the old friend all the time, new friend.
Our forefathers used to play like this, but they're not playing with this kind of funny like this. They used to play with all those tea bags and shells and matches and stuff like that.
All three games will be live streamed, and the first eye will be for us to see if we can figure out if anybody needs it. We're trying new things.
To see all your friends around again, the tournament is really good.
What strategy? I don't know if it's strategy or anything, but I use this. It's called pulling out the lucky charm. It's a boot sign. Just have fun and enjoy the game. That's all they can do.
We've been averaging about 60 teams annually. It's grown from 40 to 50. Now we're just averaging about 60. So there's lots of building going on, lots of food preparations, cooks.
Then it's like family. We're meeting with friends, people we know, for the entertainment, for showing people how we can get the stakes, how we can get our teammates value up, and we're trying to do our best.
A new land-based program in Fort Simpson wants to help men reconnect with nature. Participants will work on traditional hunting and harvesting skills and learn Indigenous teachings over the course of a week. It's all being seen as a path to wellness. Carla Ulrich has that story.
Lilliquay First Nation is preparing to host an on-the-land healing program next week. They want to inspire LKFN youth and men to live healthy lifestyles based on traditional practices. The program is open to men and youth aged 15 and up and is all about inspiring a healthy lifestyle by simply being on the land.
You don't have any time to think negatively. You don't have any time to worry about things like that. Like if you miss a rabbit and things like that, then you just reset your rabbit snare and then hopefully you'll catch it tomorrow. So each day is a new beginning, and each day there's always something different.
Jonathan Antoine is a member of LKFN. He knows exactly how it feels to reconnect with nature and forge a better path. He attended a similar program 4 years ago, which led him to sobriety.
It's amazing how when you step into sobriety, there's great reward. You start to realize that life is too short and just enjoy yourself while you're on this earth, and also enjoy it with like Mother Nature because she has all the answers.
Antoine says participating in an on-the-land program was the best decision he's ever made. He would like to see similar programs across the North.
It should be done in every community, these programs, like on the land, healing programs. It's like learning in the bush. It's key for the Indigenous communities to move forward. Being out on the land could change people's way of doing things, and then also just be exploring what the land has to offer.
Since attending the program, Antoine has traveled the world as a tourist and filmmaker. His films have been screened at film festivals across the globe, something he attributes to his sobriety and family support. Kazan says the program will continue if funding allows it. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Which is a diamond.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. Thanks for watching. I'm Leanie Lambrink. Have a good weekend.
In your once stolen vehicle in West Africa.
Jumped in the car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
Earth is our collective home. That makes us all family. As family, we strive to love and protect each other. Diversity of species is our strength. We are all connected. We survive and thrive together. We celebrate many things this season and make many choices. Taking care of our family should be the easiest. We're in this together.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit aa.org.
What do we know? I think we can explain.
About that with Andrew Chang.